Before you start listening to this, well, you can go ahead and listen to this, but you really need to go to scroll down in my videos list to the three courts of cosmic judgment. You need to go there first to really understand this discourse. Very important. Don't overlook it. It's essential. Listen to it a couple of times. Now, anyway, Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio is what I'm going to be talking about. And this is much like let's say you've been around a bunch of fake, phony people, okay, who are very superficial on the surface. They're, very much into themselves, conceited, in the mirror, okay, very, Paris Hilton type personalities, laughing and giggling, okay, the bliss of ignorance. And there are things that their ignorance has done to wrong you or offend you, but their minds are too simple to understand. Even if you tried to explain it to them, they wouldn't even understand how much you hurt them, how much they hurt you, offended you, wronged you, betrayed you, how they violated and crossed up the laws and rules of instincts and humanity, of right and wrong. You understand? And as the Scorpio algorithm of the self, there's this place in yourself, okay, wherever that is in your natal birth chart of Scorpio. This is where you're done with that and you've just been packing it away because it's like, you know what, I'm not even going to say nothing. Because every time I say something, people can't handle the truth. They can't handle what I got to say about it. I'm not even going to react no more. I'm just going to pack it down and just keep it to myself because nobody wants to connect that deep. They want to play these games, stay on the surface. Niggas think it's shit sweet. And they walk around in the bliss of ignorance, pretending like everything is all good, but it's not. And then Black Moon Lilith comes and it forces you to let go of that suppression. And Mars entering Leo is awakening the voice of the inner child to be emboldened. Not only emboldened, but quite fearless and resilient. Okay, the voice of the inner child is going to come out like a roaring lion. It's going to be very, very, very dramatic how the inner child is going to express itself through you once Mars comes into Leo. And what's going to be expressed is what's channeled through Black Moon Lilith, Scorpio. You got to understand this. And what's in Black Moon Lilith, Scorpio is the skeleton. It's the shadows of the self that you've been suppressing because simple minds can't handle it. It's the shadows that you've been suppressing because people have been used to being so phony and fake in this fake connection that they have, this fake fraternity that they have, where they pretend like they don't know what they're doing, where they pretend like they don't understand what they're doing, but they do. And you just been holding your tongue. You've been holding back. You haven't been saying nothing because it's like, you don't want to make too much noise. And really, they're not even ready to handle that. So somebody makes a mistake of bringing something up. Like, yo, why you always act like this? How come you don't want this? So I noticed you stopped doing this or you stopped doing that. And why did they ask you that question? You see what I'm saying? So now that you asked me, I got to tell you, okay? I wasn't going to say nothing. But since you asked me, now I got the right to say something. So I'm going to tell you. And once you tell them, it's like they get a glimpse of the face of death. Okay? They was not expecting that. They did not know it went that deep. They thought it was a puddle, but come to find out, it's the depth of a black ocean. Okay? What you have to say about it, what you have to explain. And we're walking around with these deep burdens because of these societal social agreements and places where we get benefit, places where we share resources, the eighth house, places where we're invested with others, and the eighth house, places where we share pain and ways to survive, the eighth house. You had to suppress a lot of your truth. You had to suppress your shadows. You had to suppress things about you that the people around you was not reading to you, that they were ready to accept about you or incorporate into your reality because they want you to be a certain way that's light on their heart, that's easy for them, that entertains them, and that makes them feel comfortable with their self as well. But this time, the inner child is saying, no, I am going to express myself. And Black Moon Lilith is what holds the expression that didn't get to be expressed. Understand? So listen close. Now, key detail that you need to know, Cancer Mars had a lot to do, that frustration had a lot to do with what we were suppressing as Scorpio. All right? And it's like, I don't want to, I don't want to burden you with this, right? Or I didn't want to get too deep. But you walk around with it and it's eating you up. And it's the part of yourself that is most authentic about you. But you don't want to open it up because you have not facilitated in the past for self-nurturing, self-pacification, self-healing, to where you can deal with the consequences of being walked away from, betrayed, or, neglected. Okay? What we were fearing is to be neglected. All right? And again, this goes back to our mothers. All right? Okay? We're still healing that. Leo Mars is significant to Black Moon Lilith transit in Scorpio initiating. Okay? Mars takes 2 months to go through each sign. So 2 months in Leo, 2 months in Virgo, 2 months in Libra, 2 months in Scorpio, and 1 month in Sagittarius will complete that course of Mars. That Black Moon Lilith would be through Scorpio. So Black Moon Lilith is going to bring up moments where you no longer can run away or hide away from the shame, the guilt, or the suppression of deep topics, deep things of the 8th house. There are 8th house situations that have to be nipped in the bud. 8th house situations where obsession took place and you were not able to be yourself because somebody was obsessing over your identity. Somebody wanted to keep things surface and simple or in the bliss of ignorance and not tend to the depth of yourself or acknowledge the depth of yourself. So it left a lot unanswered, unacknowledged, and unreceived concerning you. It's like you're out in the cold. And the 8th house is a deep place, where we are committed, is where we are invested. So this has a lot to do with where your commitments and investments are, okay? Especially Libra themes, okay? Because Libra is where the burden of this Scorpio release has to be checked at, because Libra is where the fake, phony, energy was going on in your life, okay? The superficiality and things of that nature. And this is where the earth is going to have a loud collective noise of truths being revealed and shadows coming out of people finding their place to be incorporated into the life of every person and no longer hidden and suppressed down. And what I mean by shadows is parts of ourself that doesn't carry the illumination of acknowledgement and praise. It doesn't carry the illumination of glorification and honor, okay? And so we pack it away, we pack it down, but we're expected to bring all that out into the open in front. And this is where we get to see how people change and transform when you bring the real you out. And that's when you get to see who's really there for you or not. Because being real, most of all, it exposes other people and makes them very afraid, very insecure. This is where we get politically incorrect. This is where we go against what is politically correct. This is where we ditch political correctness. This is where we bow out from political correctness. This is where political correctness is now, it's in a grave. We are doing away with political correctness. We are getting the frankness of an old man or old woman. We're getting the frankness of a person who has been through all of the battles. The frankness, okay? This is pulling off of the cigar, being frank, okay? The person or people on the other side are sitting there with a smile, and you invite them into your deep world that they always acted like they weren't ready to hear or deal with you, but yet they're in the 8th house with you. So whoever's in the 8th house with you, they gotta hear it. They have to receive it. They have to show up for it because you're invested. The 8th house is where you become one. It's where you transform together. It's where you bleed, sweat, and cry together in the 8th house. Therefore, if you're gonna be in the 8th house with me, yes, you need to hear this. And you need to help me to carry this burden as I help you carry your burden too, because that's how vested we are. So the 8th house is no longer going to be a situation where we hold back on the ugly parts of the marriage, the ugly themes of the marriage. Of course, marriage meaning where we are invested together in whatever situation, understand. If you should get confused in this discourse, I need you to ask questions. I don't need you listening to these videos just for entertainment. I need you to use it for your life, to change your life, not just sit there and entertain yourself with it. Use it to change your life. There's a part of us that we all agreed to wear these masks and these costumes around society. And we call that normal, the normal standard. But if you should say, I'm not going to put on a mask, I'm not going to wear some costume, I'm going to be myself, I'm going to be authentic, I'm going to be real. That's when people turn on you, because it gives up the illusion. It gives up the lie. Feminism and liberalism has had us live in a lie. Women are these innocent, precious beings. They can do no harm. They're morally superior. Damsels in distress. Worthy of romance, worthy of chivalry. In marriage they gain, in divorce they gain. But for man, he loses and then loses again. Feminism has rocked people to sleep about females. And ironically, it also exposed females. And it forced us to the Black Moon Lilith Scorpio, where it's time now where society is going to be real and honest about females. People are no longer going to be hiding the truth about females. They're going to say what they really think and how they really feel about females. And there's going to be nothing they can do about it. This discourse is not about females, so you can stop crying and cringing, clutching your pearls. I'm not going to torture you. But it is an in-depth explanation about Black Moon Lilith Scorpio concerning the second court, Scorpio. If you have not listened to the video entitled Understanding the Three Cosmic Courts of Judgment, you need to stop here and go listen to it and then come back here so it can make sense. Thank you. So as I was saying, collectively, Black Moon Lilith is going to have us to finally say what's on our mind. to finally do what's in our heart, following the instinct and not the societal agreement, not the agenda, not the regime. And this could include regimes such as conservatism, especially white nationalism, feminism through the liberal side, any political agendas or ideologies, coming out of it and resorting back to the nature, not making decisions or forming opinions based on loyalties that you expect, favoritism that you expect, politics, or even money. This is where we finally find the courage to relieve ourselves of the burden of keeping the truth suppressed. We were afraid because you don't win popularity contests being honest or true. You win popularity contests by saying what the people want to hear. And no matter how much you dislike to hear it, most of these transits are about the correction of women. And that correction is God wants to give women freedom and liberty because they have been praying for it. And they got freedom and liberty. But what is the crisis with that? The only problem with them having freedom and liberty is the fact that they refuse to accept accountability that goes with it. Once women learn to accept accountability that goes with freedom and liberty, peace will return between the sexes. It is that simple. Don't complicate this. Don't complicate this. But in the meantime, we're waking up out of all these delusions and agreements that are not rooted in our heart and our spirit. Ideas that we have agreed to for so long, and somebody took advantage through that agreement, and somebody's finally learning from all these experiences that I have to get real with myself. Well, isn't that the algorithm of Scorpio? The one who learns from battles, the one who gets wiser by every war. And that is men in society. They are learning from women, and they are learning from the society that they're on their own. They have to take everything into their own hands. They're at the mercy of their own instincts. And females have become predators, apex predators in this modern time. The illusion of chivalry and romance is over. Traditional marriage is a thing of the past. Black Moon Lilith Scorpio will bring the honesty and resilience that allows people to bring the full expression of the self out without being limited or conditioned by fear and retaliation of the social agreement, the social norms. So here it comes. The shadows of the self that were suppressed, that have to find a place in reality, that have to find a respectable position and role to play in the destiny. But at all costs, it's no longer going to be hidden. It's coming out. Leo Mars is going to have us to be quite zealous, fiery in our expression of the inner child. But what's going to be behind that is very deep authenticity eventually. Eventually. Where it's coming from is Black Moon Lilith Scorpio, which is getting us to move beyond the fear of being rejected for how deep it gets. To get beyond the fear of being abandoned for how serious it really is in our life. Moving beyond the fear of being walked off on or walked away from, betrayed. Left alone. Because we finally found the courage to be honest about something or someone. We're learning to side with the truth and not with the social agreement. We're learning to identify with the truth and not popular opinion. We're learning to say the truth and do what is truthful, even if it means you're going to walk away from me. We're learning through this transit of Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio that selling our soul to belong and to fit in it's too costly. Because then we no longer have a connection to what is deep about the self. Because we sold it. We can't bring it up. We can't speak on it. We can't go there. Because nobody wants to know you for that. Nobody wants to hear you say that. They want your looks, your charms, your charisma, your beauty, your intelligence, your strength. They want it to serve their lust. They want it to serve their world. They want it to serve Satan. They want it to be for their own desires, not for your cause, not for your destiny. They want everything that you have to please them and make them happy and comfortable. They want you to entertain them and to make them feel comfortable every minute of it. But they don't want you to bring any truth, the burden of the truth. They want you to tuck that away, hide it. Shh, don't say that too loud. Shh. They want you to hush there. They will hold it against you if you get honest about how you really feel about it. That Scorpio placement. They'll hold it against you if you really go there and explain it to them. They think they want to know, but they don't. You'll get that call where somebody will say, well, why don't you ever this? You never that. Well, you could this every now and then. Well, why don't you that? But if you should explain to them why you don't, if you should explain to them why you never do, if you should explain to them why there was a change in your connection or a change in the way that you relate to or behave with a person, it will blow their mind. It will set them on fire with anger and rage. It will depress them. It will make them run away because they didn't realize it was that deep. They didn't know you were suffering that much. They didn't know that you were going through all that behind that issue. They didn't know that you knew all that you knew about it. They didn't know that you could see them for who they really were in the first place. So it shocks them. It shakes the world to hear that truth. But you kept it to yourself. Black Moon Lilith is where we no longer keep it to ourselves. Okay, you really want to know why I no longer call you? You really want to know why I don't hang out with you? Do you really want to know why I don't loan you money? Do you really want to know why we used to be close friends? Do you really want to know why I don't like this or I don't like you or I don't like him or them? Do you really want to know why things feel different between us? Do you really want to know why? Things are not like they used to be. Do you really want to? Because on the other side is that someone who's judging from the court of Libra, a very surface perception, the bliss of ignorance. But once you give them a glimpse into that Scorpio, it's like they look into the eyes of a dead body and they can't stomach the truth. They can't stomach what you have to say. They can't stomach what you feel about it. They can't stomach what you're really going through. They can't stomach to hear what they put you through. They can't stomach to hear the explanation of what you really think about the situation. They can't stomach it. They can't handle it. It's too much. Black Moon Lilith Scorpio addresses everything about yourself that makes you unpopular, that makes people think you are too intense, that scares the shit out of people if you should say it or reveal it. It's like becoming Kanye West. Black Moon Lilith Scorpio, we need to know what it's all about. We got 9 months of Black Moon Lilith passing through Scorpio, which is not a planet, but it's a point behind the moon, where the shadow of the moon is cast in absence of illumination. As above, so below, it is the same with you. The emotional body that goes unacknowledged, unrealized. You put it away in the dark and you become ashamed of it. Now listen. Black Moon Lilith enters Scorpio in synchronicity with Mars entering Leo. Mars entering Leo is going to carry the expression of the inner child that was held back for quite some time. Inner child had a 7-month transit in retrograde, reviewing the emotional needs of inner child, advocacy. And Mars will bring outbursts, flamboyant expressions, drama, freedom of expression, zeal. It all returns. But what's the case with Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio? Wherever you have Scorpio in your natal birth chart, this is where you make your deepest connections. This is where you have the most intensity. This is where you are most thorough. This is where you have the resilience to look at the truth. This is also where you hold the burdens of secrets. The burden of secrets. And this is the place where if you should have internal burdens that consumes your organs, it surely came from here, Scorpio. That placement in your chart. Suppressed, suppressed, suppressed. Scorpio holds the themes that cannot just be spoken on without schedule. You're at the dinner table. You're laughing and joking, kicking it. Everybody smiling, having a good time. But Scorpio is where the Debbie Downer begins. It's where it gets really deep. And most people are not too comfortable with going so deep. It takes a special person to go with you in Scorpio. We're making our rounds with bringing the full self out into full expression, acceptance, as authentic versions of ourselves. And Scorpio is really foundational for all of this to take place. It not only is one of the algorithms of Mars, it's also the algorithm of Pluto. And Pluto at Aquarius, it's carrying our generational transformations. It's carrying the themes of empowerment and change in the Aquarian age. We look to Scorpio. Without Scorpio, we don't have the second chord. Before I mention what the second chord is, you could stop here if you don't know what that means, and you could first go to my video, which is titled The Three Cosmic Courts, the Three Cosmic Courts of Judgment. Three Cosmic Courts of Judgment. You want to view that first and then come back to this message. If you continue on from here, you're going to miss a lot concerning Scorpio. So, let me speak in that reference. Assuming that you've already watched that one, I'm going to speak in the language of that video. If you don't understand, you have to go back to that video. These universal configurations, aspects, and transits, it's taking us out of our connection to the first chord, which is to judge our reality, judge our life, judge ourselves, and judge others, judge experiences, judge fated events according to the court of Libra. When we collectively judge from the court of Libra, we tend to be shallow, disingenuous, insincere. We tend to be bought out, our opinions manufactured. It fulfills the very meaning of democracy, which is the manufacturing of the people's consent. It is a liberal disposition of judgment. To speak politically correct. To have no identity or mind behind your decision, your observation, your opinion. It's already purchased. It's purchased by the affiliation that you have identified with, the people who you identified with, the clout that you are anticipating. Your perception, your decision, your opinion is already purchased by the comment section, by the attractive, the charismatic, the rich, the wealthy. Most importantly, what I'm describing is it's a crisis where our judgment is not based in our humanity, which roots in Scorpio, but instead it's rooted in clout and political correctness, which is rooted in media. Media. So it's taking humanity's basis of judgment out of the first court and it's rooting it back into the second court. Let me give an example of this and what I mean. Recently, Carmelo Anthony, a young black male, and there were twins who were white males. An altercation took place at a track meet. And as I mentioned in the video that I told you to go to first, okay, about the three courts, if we were to judge the situation from a Libra court system of the conscious body, of the conscious self, we will wait and see what our affiliations would have to say. What do the conservatives have to say? What do the liberals have to say? What do Republicans say? What do Democrats say? What do the girls of the Yas Girl crowd say? What do my homeboys say? We will look and see what our colleagues have to say about the situation. People who influence us most and people who feed us. People who we have gain or benefit from, clout, political leverage. And we sell our opinion to such parties. So when you observe such situations, you simply echo what you think might win you approval, rather than consulting the oracle of the heart to find the truth. Instead of consulting the authority of the instincts through Scorpio to find the truth. Because of all algorithms, it is Scorpio that finds the truth. Because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the one who finds and recovers the truth. Need I say more? But see, we've gotten so superficial in society, we are far from judging matters, judging ourselves from Scorpio. We lack the resilience to do that, the courage to do that. And there's too much shame and guilt and fear around being so real. Shame, guilt, and fear about being authentic. Shame, guilt, and fear about being sincere. Shame, guilt, and fear about speaking the truth, aligning with the truth, defending the truth. Because we fear rejection. We fear rejection. We fear exile. We fear the disapproval of the group, of the clan, of where we get our clout from, where we make our money from. I can't say these things because people aren't going to like my videos. I can't say these things because I'm not going to get a YouTube check. I can't agree with this or disagree with that because I'm not going to be popular anymore. I'm going to pretend like I don't understand what the truth is because then the girl isn't going to like me. We've gotten in the habit of selling our souls. That comes from the court of Libra, the people's court, the court of public opinion, the court of the media. Political and social loyalty, not the truth of the heart. So we as a humanity, we're switching from the court of Libra. It's closing. We no longer will perceive things through Libra. So let me come back to the point with Carmelo Anthony. If I were to be politically correct, I would have to say, Carmelo Anthony, why would he have, I would use the word weapon, why would he be armed at a school? All the usual suspect again. Why didn't he just go tell a teacher or an elder? Once again, a young black male doing what we expect him to do. You saw the picture. It had to be the black boy's fault. He was holding a gun in the picture. And so what the crowd is saying, what the comment section is saying, that's what you go with. You refuse to acknowledge and say, oh, this was self-defense. Oh, no, it wasn't self-defense. It was racism. It was hatred. He's a bloodthirsty criminal. That's to observe from Libra. You want to be politically correct and make sure that you tread lightly. Because if you be too honest, you'll lose your friends. You'll lose your associations. You'll lose approval. You'll lose backing. You'll lose your money in some cases. You'll lose popularity. And it makes you feel insecure to lose all of that. It makes you very afraid that people will turn on you for something you say or do that came straight from your heart. And that's Black Moon Lilith Scorpio. It is the shame that you have of the truth. It's the shame that you have of what you know to be true about yourself, about others, about life, about anything, about everything. You're ashamed of it. And you sell your soul to avoid identifying with it. You hurry up and get away from it. To judge the situation from Scorpio, Scorpio is the court of judgment that goes eye for eye, tooth for tooth. It's the court of the instincts. It's the court of the carnal nature. It's a court of survival instincts. It's a court that roots the essence of humanity. Our primal essence. Mars, the root chakra. Life or death situation. Fear, hope, impulse. The young man Carmelo, 130 pounds. Two big white boys, 207 or 210 pounds. You can fact check me. They start bullying him. They asked him to leave, but they went as far to bully the kid. Putting their hands on his property and putting his hand on his body. Laying hands on him. He gives them the warning. Put your hands on me again and watch what happened. They were warned. And they put their hands on him again. They didn't go get adults who are authorized to manage these situations. They took it into their own hands and put their hands on other people, on somebody else. He reached for a knife, which is an equalizer. He's 130 pounds. They're upwards of 200 pounds. And one hit, like David slew Goliath, the poor kid's out of here. Now, according to the law of Scorpio, it was justified. It was self-defense. According to Libra, he should go to jail because that's the most popular thing to say. Because that's what will have you politically correct. That's what will have you to keep your friends. You're ashamed to say the truth. Everything that I say up here every day concerning what astrology is really about, what it's really saying. But see, I have the strength of Scorpio in the 4th house. My soul is Scorpio. My soul. So I can't be ashamed of the truth. I say everything that makes me unpopular. I say everything that makes people unsubscribe. I say everything that makes people run away and reject me, abandon me, run off from me, walk off on me. Because my soul is not for sale. I don't fear abandonment. I don't fear being walked away from. I don't fear being alone. I know that everything I say, you know, is the truth. You know it. And that's why it bothers you so much. but I'm not ashamed of it. I don't fear the consequences of associating myself with the truth. That is what makes me authentic. That's what makes me real. That's what makes me a Leo rising. Understand? So, what's happening to us collectively, and the collective of us is expressed through Aquarius, that power through Pluto in Aquarius. We collectively are having a transformation of our judgment and perception. Our judgment and perception is going to leave the court of Libra and is going to reroot itself, awaken itself in the court of Scorpio. When we awaken in the court of Scorpio, we are going to judge matters according to our own selves. We are going to perceive matters according to our own selves. We're going to find the resilience to embrace the truth, to embrace reality, to also accept and embrace every shadow that we have. Every shadow that we have. When we learn to embrace our shadows, accept our shadows, we learn to accept the shadows in others. When we no longer fear our own shadows, we no longer fear the shadows of others, because we're able to discern the difference between their illumination and their shadow. Wherever there is illumination, it casts a shadow. And if we can accept that about ourselves, we can accept that about others. If we no longer fear that about ourselves, we don't fear that about others. If we embrace it with ourselves, we embrace it with others. And this is when we become an authentic people, a real people, not fake and phony. The liberal court had its catalyst with the liberal college female. That's whose mindset of judgment we have borrowed in the timeline behind us. We were thinking like her, judging like her, coming to conclusions like her, evaluating others like her. If somebody doesn't have, quote unquote, the bag, we discard them. If someone doesn't have all kinds of name brand things on, we discard them, just like her. Now what do we find in a moment of truth? The tariffs have revealed, through China's exposure out of spite, that all your thousands of dollars spent on name brand this and name brand that, you could have bought it for a fraction of the cost because it was cheap anyway. Delusional people chasing illusions. None of it is real, and it has never been real. God is helping us to become real, to become authentic, to come out of a life of living so damn fake, so phony, superficial, surface, airhead, Paris Hilton. The Libra court is going to make conflict with Scorpio court. This usually happens by facing twin flames, and you will hear this in the video that I referred you to. Some of us will have to have revisits with twin flames. If we are too surface, if we are too simple, if we're too much of a dizzy bitch to look into the deep. Ignorance is bliss. You're walking around whistling, grinning and smiling in the bliss of ignorance. The twin flame dynamic is the opportunity of awakening for such shallow minds. There's a difference between bliss and happiness. Bliss is because you're slow. It is not a compliment. You're too slow to know to be sober. You're too slow. You're too slow to catch on to the depth of reality. Too surface. That Libra chord, it requires twin flames to break and crack that surface through the power and impact of shocking pain, trauma, hardship, pain that rocks the heart, a crack straight through the heart. And it starts the journey of self-discovery called the dark night of soul. This is where the soul is seeking illumination, is seeking solution for pain that earth has no offer to solve or resolve, that no one can comfort you about except the truth. And that's the beginning of you finally getting some depth. Only Pluto and Scorpio can take you there. That's the only way to have a consciousness that shifts from Libra into Scorpio, is through great pain and trauma. That resilience allows you to meet yourself and your shadows and embrace them all in the dark. Having the resilience to do so, the courage. Seeing that there's more to the self than what you prefer to see. There's more to the self than what others compliment you about. There's far more to the self than what you have put sugar and honey and beautiful colors on. There's a mess down there, and all of it is you. There are things down there that need your attention in the self. That requires your focus, your time and commitment with the self. No more running away. When we become resilient enough to incorporate the shadows as what defines the self, this is when we have impactful spirit. Impactful spirit that causes transformation. Because that's how real we become. Someone who is real, it could be felt. Like the intensity of a Scorpio or a strong Scorpio stellium. They can take you very deep and show you things, explain to you things that causes you to transform through disillusionment. But what they say, it is heavy. It is a burden. But truth sets you free. When we as a collective come to the court of Scorpio, whenever world events take place, whenever there are headlines, whenever there are happenings, whenever there are disputes, when we play judge in life, we now will have the resilience to be honest about what we see. We now will have the transparency to be sincere about what we conclude. We'll have the courage to side with the truth. No matter how unattractive it makes us sound or look, we will say the truth. No matter how many friends we have to lose, how much money we lose, opportunities, truth will be more valuable than any outcome that we can anticipate. Let the chips fall where they may. This is who we are becoming. When we were used to judging from the Libra court, this is what determined popularity in society. Popularity was determined by who was enabling and promoting the collective agreement. And a collective agreement was according to the South Node Libra, which now is over. And that holds feminism and liberalism, and the rainbow flag and other dysfunctions that are mixed in between that. Being on code. And of course, the head of all of this is an African American female. She is the final boss of feminism and liberalism. Anyone who is not on code with what they think or believe or like, you face cancel culture. You lost friends, you lost popularity, you lost money, you lost followers. You were shadow banned on YouTube like I am. You have a hard time. And this is what caused people to sell the truth and sell their souls, because of the consequences of being real is too expensive. When you come from Scorpio in your judgment, people flee from you. They run. They get away. And it's not really because of what you're saying. It's not because of what you're revealing. It's because you're simply reminding them of how fake they are. And that's the greatest pain. Now, as for Black Moon Lilith for 9 months is going to present the catalyst that allows us to transform ourselves from the Libra court into the Scorpio court of consciousness, the position that we judge ourselves and others through. And what Black Moon Lilith would do is it's going to present an awareness, it's going to present an emotional attachment to the shame of the truth, and to the shame of your shadow, and to the shame of your secrets. And most of that has to do with the fear of connecting deeply in the house where you have Scorpio. So wherever you have Scorpio, Black Moon Lilith is going to make you feel intensified shame and fear and guilt about who you are, what you like, what you prefer, what you want, what you don't want, how you want, how you don't want. It's going to make you feel shame, guilt, and fear. Now, why is this? This is because we're coming from a world, a society of people who judge from Libra. People who judge from Libra cannot understand or accept a person who's coming from Scorpio. It's that simple. So all of us hid away our Scorpio expression in our natal birth chart. Wherever you have Scorpio in your natal birth chart, that is the part of your life that has been suppressed, hidden, covered in shame and guilt. Because people would reject you for expressing that outwardly. People would call you crazy. They would say you're doing too much, you're too intense, you're too deep. Oh, that's harsh. That's crazy. You need to see a therapist. They'll give you the Kanye effect. They'll start treating you like people treat Kanye. Okay? Wherever you have Scorpio, if you get authentic and real about that in an outwardly expression, people would treat you the way they treat Kanye. That is how that works. So you hid it away for that reason. But what the forces of this universe is trying to do is trying to give you the courage and resilience, the self-acceptance that Kanye has. The people who call him crazy are looking from the court of Libra. They aren't deep enough to see him. They aren't deep enough to understand him. They aren't real enough to connect with him. They aren't authentic enough to relate to him. The Libra court cannot comprehend Scorpio court. The Libra view cannot encompass the Scorpio view. Libra can't understand Scorpio, but Scorpio can understand Libra. Kanye is coming from a Black Moon Lilith Scorpio acceptance in the intensity that he stands in. Which is to say, no matter how ugly or crazy my shadow is, I accept that this is my shadow. I became famous for my light. I became a billionaire for my light. I became popular and loved and liked for my light. But I also have to accept my shadow if I'm going to accept my light. Otherwise, I am not real. I'm not authentic. Look at Old Dirty Bastard. R.I.P. Old Dirty Bastard Wu-Tang. R.I.P. He was the realest that they came. He was a person who embraced his shadow and his light. Equally. Authentic. Look at Richard Pryor. Shadow and light. Shadow and light. We run away from our shadow. We want to pretend like we only have light and no shadow. We want to hide it away. We're too scared. And that causes us to say to people who are not scared of their shadow, we call them crazy. People who embrace it, acknowledge, and keep their shadow in the open, oh, they're crazy. Something's wrong with you. Get away from this guy. Why do you do that? You do that because of your fear. It's your own fear. You see somebody who is fearless enough to accept and embrace their shadow, and it scares the shit out of you. So you have to get vocal and say, oh, I'm not with that person. I don't side with them. I don't agree with them. I don't like them. They're crazy. That's wrong. That's ridiculous. That's rogue. Oh, I could never. Why? Because you're pledging your allegiance to the people when you do that. You're pledging your allegiance to the public court when you do that. You're pledging your allegiance to the Libra court system when you do that. You're pledging your allegiance to the people when you do that, and their opinions and their superficiality. You're saying, I'm with you, so please don't leave me. I'm with you, don't abandon me. I'm not with him. Don't associate me with him. I don't want you to leave me or reject me. This is the cowardice in humanity. The cowardice. It's like Peter. He was the main one talking. Telling Jesus what he gonna do. How he gonna stand up for him. And Jesus stopped him in the middle of his words and told him, before the rooster crows, you're gonna betray me. You're gonna be the main one to betray me. And lo and behold, he was. Why? For the same reason. The same reason. It takes strength to be real. Everybody can't be real. Most of y'all are fake. Most of y'all are fake. It's very few people who are real. And when you hear somebody who's real, when you see somebody who's real, people who are afraid to be real, they attack them because it scares them. It causes an exposure of the self that I don't have the guts to be that real. I don't have the guts to be that authentic. Anyone who wants to be glorified for the light, let you also be acknowledged for your shadow in equal proportion. If there is light, there is shadow. Light casts a shadow. And that's what Black Moon Lilith is getting us to do, to accept that shadow, to accept the shadow part of the self, the part of self that we don't want nobody to know. We don't want it to be heard. We don't want it to be seen. It makes me look imperfect. It makes me look like you might reject me for it. If I let you know this, you might reject me. You might turn on me. You might abandon me. And it's really a fear of being left alone, a fear of not being accepted, a fear of not being in the popular club, where the pretty girls and the charismatic guys pick and choose you, associate with you. I'm good at taking my lunch tray and sitting at a table by myself and let whoever want to come sit, you can have a seat. But I don't have to follow behind people, and you shouldn't either. Self is enough. Understand. And this is what we got to learn. Black Moon Lilith is going to create realities, circumstances, events that brings focus to these places in your life where you're trying to hide your shadow away and pack it down and pretend like it was never there. Your shadows are going to be resurrected. They're going to be brought alive. They're going to stand up. They're going to come out like a Michael Jackson video on you. And you're going to have to name every shadow. And you're going to have to position yourself as master of every shadow. You're going to have to incorporate those shadows and find acceptance for it. And as a result of doing so, you will love others through their shadows. You will accept others through their shadows. You will not hold shadows against others when you judge them. Your perception becomes more realistic. Scorpio doesn't look at things. Scorpio looks into things. Scorpio performs discovery, reconnaissance. Scorpio gathers evidence, facts, details. Scorpio strategic. But now the door opens and the skeletons fall out. What are you going to do now? Are you still afraid you're not going to be liked, accepted, popular, rejected, walked away from? No more comments, no more likes, no more shares on your social media channel, no more support. People walk away from you. You're going to speak to an empty audience. Are you afraid of that? Are you scared of that? Look, I've been doing it for years. It's not going to hurt you. Take it from me. I've been speaking to an empty audience for years. Understand? I've been saying what pisses people off for years. People walk away from me for years. Yeah. I accept my shadow. I know I have a lot of light. And if I'm going to acknowledge the light that I have, I also have to acknowledge the shadow that I have. I speak ignorantly. South Node Sagittarius. I'm a dirty barbarian. South Node Sagittarius. I have a long way to go to learn how to clean up my delivery, my message, my communication. I accept my shadow. I have shock value in what I say. But I know it does favors. I accept my shadow. I'm far from perfect. I have addictions that I'm aware of, weaknesses that I'm aware of. I'm full of all kinds of problems. When we accept our shadows, we accept other people, and we get to see people for who they really are. You can't lie to a person who accepts their shadows, because they can see your shadows and accept it without judging you for it. But you're not going to lie to them like it's not there, because they have the resilience to look at their own shadows, so therefore they can see yours. Scorpio gives us the ability to look at the root of our issues, the Lord of the underworld. When we understand how to look at the root of ourselves, we also know how to look at the root of others. And that becomes part of the insight in how we come to conclusions concerning others. That affords greater mercy. That affords greater depth of compassion, greater depth of understanding, forgiveness, transparency, a deeper connection. And all of it is a reflection of the connection we have with the self. Black Moon Lilith is going to show us where we refuse to connect with ourselves, and it causes us to lack the ability to connect with others. A fear of a deep connection. A fear to talk about it again. A fear to bring it back up. Nobody's going to understand. I'm going to be judged for this. Just walk away now, because I know you're going to leave anyway. Go ahead and shoot me or stab me, because I know that's what you're going to do anyway. I'm going to turn my back now so you can stab me in it, because I know that's what you're going to do anyway. Right? This becomes the case. We're coming out of being the fake people. We're becoming the real people now, finally. And guess what comes with that? Accountability comes with that. Because once Black Moon Lilith leaves out of Scorpio, you're not going to be able to shit people no more. You're not going to be able to pull the wool. You're not going to be able to use pretty faces, big butts, charismatic energy, Luciferic knowledge and information, talking all fast, fancy hats, charming charisma on social media, a nice jigaboo dance. None of that is going to work to fool people anymore. Because one thing people are going to notice, hold up, if you got light, you got a shadow. And that's how you know who's real and who's fake. Because the real ones don't hide their shadow. They come with the light, but there's a shadow that has a real gritty taste. Hard to digest. And that's part of the truth. Part of the truth that we all are a part of. The ugly. The skeletons in the closet. The dead bodies in the basement. Understand? We get into that part. 9 months, we got to learn to find the resilience to get deep at your Scorpio placement, to connect deeper at your Scorpio placement, to not shy away from the depth of the situation, to bring it back up, the difficult conversations, to bring it back up, what was hard to look at and accept, to bring it up again,